My name is Panagiotis or Peter Michael Yiannoudes, and I born in a small village in Cyprus, Bouni, in Limassol. I was involved in the cinemas when I was nearly 15 years old, starting working as a ticket seller in a cinema in Limassol, Cyprus. And since then, it became part of my life.
My name's James Tatoulis. I've lived in Australia for the last 60 years and came as a young kid as a migrant. Great experiences throughout, and one of the powerful experiences was being involved in the very start of Greek cinema in Melbourne.
Came in Australia in 1956. I remember there were not many Greeks those days.
There was very little sort of social possibilities, so family gatherings, houses for name days, and eventually engagements and weddings became very important, as did film and cinema.
They used to screen Greek films every Saturday in a small church hall they called Nicholas Hall in Lonsdale Street, the city. But before I left Cyprus, my boss, really, he used to be the agent of Finos Films. And so he told me, look, if at any time you wanted to be an agent of Finos Films, tell me and I will arrange that. And so when I came here, I became their sole agent for Finos Films for many years. And then I started, of course, now in 1957, I started my own business with this film called Golfo. But in Melbourne, unfortunately, not any theater was willing to rent any cinema to anybody for foreign films. But because I was working to the Hoyt theaters, one of the projectionists gave me the idea of hiring Melbourne Town Hall.
The cinemas were, in fact, the town hall, so it was an interesting environment.
There was 2,500 seats in the center of the city, beautiful place, and I have a big success out of that.
It was a real energy. You see 1,000 people descend on Swanston Street on a Saturday night in the 1950s. You can imagine, yeah, Swanston Street was pretty dead, and suddenly, you know, there were all these people there.
And I remember the opposite was the Capitol Theatre. And the manager came and said, what's happening there? What's so many people? And they said, it's a Greek film.
It was the social point of the week, because as you might imagine, all these people, my parents in those days, they're in their 30s, so they'd be working, you know, pretty hard and pretty menial tasks during the week. And so it was the outlet. So Saturday night, it was almost like Saturday night fever.
It was like to be in their own country. Come to the cinema, meet people, listen their own language.
The films were good, and I think the audience really empathised with the characters, and they were very much part of it.
It's very hard to explain how nostalgic you be when you be away from home. You think that is something that you can't describe that.
So yeah, I think it had a tremendous influence in creating a basis for future Greek cultural events in Melbourne.
The people that came from 1950s to 1959, 1960, it was not easy. They came already, work hard, and they wanted to do something in their life for the future.
I doubt that many societies, perhaps Australia and Canada and perhaps US to some degree, you know, you could in one generation go from, you know, sort of a penniless migrant to, you know, sort of being the top of your game in your profession.
They gave to their children everything possible, the chance to become a professional.
I think the opportunities afforded were just absolutely fantastic, and it was based on education and merit rather than status and family.
Everybody, they wanted to make their own business. The only place to go to make business in the country. This is why we found so many people around Australia, like Geelong, Ballarat, Bendigo, Shepparton, Albury, but I couldn't get any cinema there. And I have decided to convert the film from 35 to 16 millimeter. Then I went around Australia and New Zealand and Tasmania with a one projector and one screen, and the film, and I've been around Australia. 1958, we make a partnership with the two other gentlemen, Mr. Papadopoulos and Mr. Raftopoulos. They used to import their own films. And we have decided to join forces to be able to bring a professionalism in the Greek cinema business. Then, 1960, we bought the National Theatre in Richmond. And then 1961, we bought the Sun Theatre in Yarraville. And 1965, we bought in the same year the Paramount Theatre Oakley, the Kinema Theatre Albert Park, the Empire Theatre Brunswick, and Westcott Theatre Northcote. So we bought really, in every area there used to be Greeks, we opened a cinema.
So in a sense it was like a semi-commercial, semi-altruistic giant social work sort of happening, and it was very successful.
In those days, the cinema was the main entertainment.
Later on, as the community became larger and more established, then they established clubs.
The community became older. The second generation, they start growing up. They want a different type of entertainment.
That really took 10 to 15 years to happen. So in the 50s and early 60s, basically the church and cinema especially were the only social sort of venues.
Until 1979, 80, when video came in, and that was the end. Really, we finished completely in 1984, really. We closed all the theaters. Cinema, the Greek cinema, plays a major role, really, in my opinion, giving to the Australian immigrants something to remember and something to have, to cherish, for the rest of their lives.
It had profound influence in bringing people together and really shaping, to some degree, the cause of the Greek identity in Melbourne.
For me, it was part of my life. It's in me.
Certainly, from a personal point of view, I've always been interested in cinema, and whether that was the genesis of it or not, I don't know. But even to this day, I'll see probably a film a week.
Still, I'm involved, and still I love it, and I will love it until my end.
Να με πας, να με πας, είδηση,